All right, let's jump right into this. Today, we're exploring something genuinely mind-blowing, what scholars actually call the map of the universe. Now, technically, we're looking at a text called the Abhidhamma Piṭaka, Volume 12, Paṭṭhāna, Part 6. And yeah, I know, that is a serious mouthful, but stick with me here, because we aren't just blowing the dust off some ancient religious manuscript today. We're actually digging into what's considered one of the most meticulous, sophisticated logical structures ever created by a human mind. It's basically this incredible mashup of early philosophy, psychology, and ontology all rolled into one. But before we get into the heavy mechanics of it all, I want to pose a core mystery to you. Can the absence of a thing actually create something new? It almost sounds like a riddle, right? But I want to prime your brains for this concept because it's literally the beating heart of today's explainer. We're going to be talking about negative logic. In this ancient framework, what is not is treated as just as important and honestly just as powerful as what is. Basically, the empty space matters just as much as the object itself. Okay, let's quickly walk through our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the mystery of Paccanīya-Paccaya. Then, we'll unpack the logic of what isn't before diving into the actual network of Tika and Dukkha. After that, we'll connect this to systems theory and anatta, and wrap it all up with vipassana and life's reality. So, starting off with Section 1, the mystery of Paccanīya-Paccaya. To really get this, we have to understand the context. The Paṭṭhāna is widely known by scholars as the Mahapakarana, which translates to the Great Book. And it is the towering peak of the Abhidhamma. It literally maps out all physical and mental phenomena in Theravada Buddhist philosophy, using exactly 24 specific conditions. It's an exhaustive blueprint of how reality functions. But Part 6? Part 6 does something super interesting. It introduces Paccanīya-Paccaya. Instead of just looking at what's there, it systematically observes conditions through their exact opposites. It's the study of how phenomena relate in a negative sense. It teaches us to understand the universal law of causes and conditions by meticulously analyzing what is absent. Which brings us right into Section 2, the logic of what isn't. In academic circles, this text is recognized as just a massive leap in advanced logical thinking. It pushes way past the standard question of what causes what, and actually dares to ask what cannot cause what. Think about it like this. Positive logic, or anuloma, is how we normally operate. A causes B, fire causes heat, easy. But Paccanīya, this negative logic, flips the whole script. It says the absence of A causes C. A great way to think about this is a drought. A drought isn't a thing that suddenly arrives, right? It's entirely caused by the absence of rain. The lack of rain is the active condition creating the drought. This logic explores how the denial, or the missing element of one condition, is exactly the thing that triggers the creation of a new one. It completely changes how we look at causality. Moving right along to Section 3, the network of Tika and Dukkha. Now brace yourselves for a bit of a deep dive here, because we are essentially looking at ancient combinatorial analysis. These thinkers weren't just writing down vague abstract ideas. They built a system that functions exactly like a dynamic mathematical network. The text categorizes reality into Tika, which are sets of 3, and Dukkha, sets of 2. And to make absolutely sure no dimension of reality is left out, it cross-references them relentlessly. It creates the Tika-Dukkha Paṭṭhāna, mixing 3s with 2s, then the Dukkha-Tika, mixing 2s with 3s, then 3s against 3s and 2s against 2s. It's honestly like looking at a flawless algorithm designed to calculate every single permutation of existence. And this structure really illustrates just how meticulous this logic is. You take a base structure of 3, extend it with an entirely different set of 2, and boom, you generate this complex, resulting network of relationships. Then you reverse those variables and map the whole thing out again. It's just an exhaustive, comprehensive cross-examination of reality. They were essentially programming a map of human consciousness and physical reality using combinatorial logic, thousands of years before computers were even a concept. All right, that brings us to Section 4, systems theory and anatta. For me, this is the real aha moment of this whole explainer. This is where we bridge a 2,000-year-old negative logic system directly into 21st century scientific frameworks. Modern scholars are explicitly comparing these ancient methods to modern systems logic and network theory. And the reason is simple but incredibly profound. This text just absolutely refuses to view reality as a bunch of isolated, independent units. Instead, it looks at everything as interconnected nodes within this massive, breathing system. The source material actually describes existence as the flow of causes and conditions that continuously support and negate each other. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. The universe is just an endless flow. Nothing stands alone. Literally, everything you see, feel, and experience is constantly being pushed by the presence of certain conditions and pulled by the absence of others. So the crucial philosophical point that emerges from all this logic is anatta, or non-self. If absolutely everything in existence relies on a massive web of countless conditions to arise, and if those conditions are constantly shifting, supporting, and negating each other, then an independent, permanent self simply cannot exist. If you are entirely the result of this conditional web, that isolated, permanent ego we all tend to cling to, it's fundamentally impossible. Which leads perfectly into our final section, Vipassana and life's reality. Let's bring all these high-level philosophical concepts down to earth. Because ultimately, this isn't just some academic exercise. We want to see how thinking like an ancient logician can actually help you manage your modern day-to-day emotions. And that is exactly where the practice of Vipassana meditation comes in. Step 1 is objective observation. Step 2 is seeing causes and conditions. And Step 3 is breaking down the ego, or that self-illusion. By applying this critical systems-level thinking to our own minds, we can start to strip away our worldly biases. We stop interpreting the world purely through emotional reactions, and instead, we start seeing reality clearly, exactly as it is. Just a fleeting series of causes and conditions. Practitioners of this logic develop what's called the knowledge of defining causes and conditions of mind and body. By specifically understanding what does not cause something, using that negative logic we were talking about earlier, we grasp the incredibly deep nature of how things arise and pass away. When you truly realize that your anger, your sadness, or even your joy are just the temporary results of intersecting conditions, you start building this unshakable foundation of wisdom. To really summarize the sheer scale of what we've covered today, scholars refer to this text as the map of the universe's relationships. And honestly, it is a breathtaking achievement. It perfectly unifies cold hard logic, deep human psychology, and the ultimate nature of reality into one single master blueprint. It shows us that, to understand the universe, we have to understand the spaces between things just as much as the things themselves. I want to end today's explainer with a final, provocative thought. If you are just a flow of conditions, constantly arising and falling away based on a massive network of causes, what are you holding on to? Think about that today as you go about your life. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating map with me, and I hope it sparks a completely new way of looking at the world around you.